It improves insomnia. You're not able to sleep well, having trouble sleeping at night, take a brisk 45-minute walk in the morning 5 days a week, and your sleep may improve significantly, is what the study says. And they took people in various age groups, and they said, of course, walking too close to bedtime can do just the opposite. It can give you energy, and then you're not able to get to sleep. So they said you need to do it earlier in the day, but it actually improves insomnia. And then here's number 10, walking is good for the heart. It's good for the heart. They said women who took brisk walks for 3 or more hours per week reduced their risk of heart disease by 30 to 40%, according to over 72,000 women aged 40 to 65 years old who were enrolled in the prospective nurses' health study. And they said heart attacks kill more U.S. women than men annually. Now that's surprising. It's killing more women now than men. They said, however, the benefits of walking aren't limited to one gender. A study showed that walking can cut the risk of coronary heart disease in half for men between the ages of 71 and 93. So I've got a few years and then I'll start walking. Just, no. But isn't that interesting for you to know just some incredible natural benefits just from walking, just to improve your mood, just to strengthen your heart, to reduce the risk of stroke, to improve your sleep patterns? I mean, just by walking, all of these great things, burning calories, giving yourself new energy, just blessing yourself just by walking. That's why we're saying when you've got a dream, walk this thing out. Just get in motion. Things start flowing when you start moving. Benjamin Disraeli said this, that action may not always bring happiness, but there is no happiness without action. There is no happiness without action. That's why love without, romance with no finance is a nuisance. Because there's no action that's going on. There's no happiness without action. Paul called life a race. And if life is a race, and it is, it's actually a marathon and not a sprint. It is a marathon, not a sprint. Now that means that we can get up and get back in the race whenever you fall. Whenever you fall. In Psalm chapter 37 and verse 23 and 24, we read that when we fall, not if. When we fall, not if, God will lift us back up. When you fall. When you fall. And see, here's the good thing. When you're walking, don't stop and don't panic. Don't stop and don't panic. If you fall, pick yourself up in His strength and keep walking. Pick yourself up in His strength and keep walking. Don't just sit there, do something. If you fall, that's not the time to just cry and have a pity party. Pick yourself up and do something. Doing nothing does not avoid risk, but it heightens it. And there's some people who will do nothing in order to avoid risk. You're not avoiding risk, you're heightening the risk in your life. Jesus was never, ever in a panic. You never see Jesus in a panic. It could be in a storm, on the ocean, in the boat, and Jesus was never in a panic. Now let me just tell you this, if you ever hear God panicking, I don't know where you go, you better run to the rocks. God never gets in a panic. He never ever gets in a panic. The disciples were panicking many times, but Jesus was never in a panic. Remember, Jesus came as the Prince of Peace, not the Prince of Panic. Not the Prince of Panic. So don't stop, just don't panic, keep on moving. I don't know whether you all remember the lady Morgan Usaini. She was the world's leading runner, and she fell in the 2011 World Championship, only to get back up and then to make it to the 2012 Olympics. And she had incredible tenacity. And then as the world watched this woman run the 1,500-meter race in the Olympics, she fell again. And poor Morgan now will not be remembered as an Olympic gold medalist, the fastest woman in the world, but she will be remembered as the woman who fell. Remembered as the woman who fell. The focus of her entire life, all of the preparation, all of her dreaming, all of her practice, all of the coaching, all of the sacrificial effort, when nobody else was watching, all of that gone because she fell. But aren't you glad that the Bible promises that when you fall, the Lord, that a just man may fall 7 times, but he rises back up again. Aren't you glad to know that there's another chance for you, that God doesn't give up on you because you mess up? I'm so glad that God is not only the God of a second chance, he's the God of another chance. Because most of us blew our second chance a long time ago. We needed another chance. It's interesting, I love something that Dick Collin, he was a marathoner, and I want you to hear the words of another marathoner. Here's what he says, because this has wisdom in reference to your building your dream. You're going after your dream, whatever God sows into your heart. This is great words of advice from a marathoner, not a sprinter, but a marathoner. He says, decide before the race the conditions that will cause you to stop and drop out. Decide before the race the conditions that will cause you to stop and drop out. He says, you don't want to be out there saying, well, gee, my leg hurts, and I feel a little dehydrated, I'm sleepy, I'm tired, and it's cold and windy out here. He says, you'll do that and then talk yourself into quitting. He says, if you're making a decision based on how you feel at that moment, you probably will make the wrong decision. So you have to decide at the beginning what conditions you will allow to stop you and cause you to drop out. You've got to already say, listen, I'm going to finish this thing. That's why you've seen runners finish the race with a broken leg, with a pulled hamstring, in great pain and agony, because they said, if something happens to me, I'm going to finish my race. They had already decided that before they ever started. And when you don't calculate certain things when you get ready to even start it, and say, listen, even though I come up against hell and high water, even though I'm going to come through demonic opposition and people are not going to like me and folks are going to talk about me, and there might be times that your relationships become strained, that your finances become strained, but you have to decide ahead of time, I'm not going to allow this to make me quit. Listen, when God has really put something in your heart, when he's sown a real dream in you, when you come under pressure, your convictions don't get weaker, they grow stronger. I don't know why and how to explain it, but you'll have this wild kind of faith where you just can't give up on something that God has assigned to you. He'll let you rest a bit, but he will not let you resign on him. You'll have to go back. There will be some times that you'll be trying to do something that is good. You'll throw your hands down and say, you know what, I'm not fooling with this. People don't appreciate the stuff that you do for them and all of this, and I'm just going to give it up. Listen, if God has sown something in your heart, you might need to take a walk, improve your mood, come back another day and say, Lord, let's do this thing. Come on, because he's not going to let you quit. When God has given you a dream, there will be disappointments, there will be setbacks, there will be opposing forces, there will be negativity, there will be demonic things that will oppose you. Expect those things to come your way, so you can arm yourself and say, you know what, when I come through all of this stuff, I am not going to let this stuff cause me to drop out of the race. I'm not going to give up on my marriage. I'm not going to give up on my family. I'm not going to give up on my ministry. I'm not going to give up on my business. You have to set the parameters up front before you start, that this is not going to be a disqualifying thing that is going to pull me out of the race. I don't care what it is that I encounter on this journey, I am built for it. When you touch yourself, say, I'm built for it. Whatever destiny that God has put in your life, you are built for it. You're born for it and built for it. God has built in you the ability to be able to sustain the storm. He built you with the storm in mind. He really did. He knew that the winds were going to blow, that the rains would come, and that the wind would begin to blow vehemently on your life. But God built you with the storm in mind. He did. He built you with the storm in mind. And so we are encouraged, Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 1, to run this race with patience or endurance. Notice, therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Well, run with patience the race that is set before us. Now, in my opinion, to run with patience equals walking. To run with patience equals walking. Or you could say it, they use the word endurance. To run with endurance means that you walk, because it means you pace yourself for the long haul. You have to pace yourself. Seth Godin said, quit the wrong stuff, stick to the right stuff, and have the guts to do one or the other. Quit or be exceptional. Average is for losers. Quit the wrong stuff. I just love the way he says that. Stick with the right stuff. This is what Hebrews 12:1 is telling us. If you're going to walk your dream out, here are three things that you must do. Lay aside every weight. You're going to have to lay aside the weight. Lay aside the weight. That is every hindrance, every distraction that hinders or slows you down from dream fulfillment. And so you have to ask yourself, what are some of the weights that you have identified that are weighing you down or slowing you down? What are some of the weights? Now remember, weights are not sins. What are some of the weights? There are sometimes people that are weights in your life that are slowing you down. They're slowing your destiny down. What weights are on you that are an enemy to what God has assigned you to do? What weights are on your life that's slowing you down? What weights? Think about that. Notice it says, lay aside every weight. You know, a hot air balloon, it has to let go of the weight in order for it to rise. If you got too much weight on you, you can't get off the ground because you're carrying too much. So lay aside every weight. Lay aside every weight. Those things that are hindering you, bogging you down. You see, less is more. When you focus is about eliminating the unnecessary. It is about eliminating the unnecessary. Whatever is unnecessary in your life, whenever you focus, you're simply eliminating the unnecessary. Lay aside the weight. That means that you're carrying excess that you were not built or designed to carry. And it is weighing you down, slowing you down, and in many instances, probably making you sick. Lay aside every weight. Here's number two. Lay aside the sin that ensnares you. Lay aside the sin. Now, when I say the sin, I mean both the sin of commission and the sin of omission. Remember James chapter 4 and verse 17? It says, therefore, to him who knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is sin. You can sin by not doing the good stuff that you know to do. When you know to prosper and you fail to prosper, you're operating in sin. If you know how to be productive and you're not being productive, you're operating in sin. If you know how to minister grace to your family and you refuse to do it, you're operating in sin. To him that knoweth to do right and does not do it, to him it is sin. So lay aside the sins of omission and sins of commission. Oftentimes we think about sins as the stuff that we do wrong. Sometimes the sin that you need to lay aside is the stuff that you do right that you're not doing. So he says, put off procrastinating, doing the things that you know to do that you've not been doing. Put those things aside. Lay that sin aside. If you know to be diligent and to stick to your plan every day and then you don't do it, see, that's sin to you when you know the right thing to do. When you've been given, if you got a certain health condition and you know that this particular food is not in your diet plan, and you've been sneaking and eating it every day, now you know you're not doing right. You know it. You already know it. To him that knows to do good. And if they don't do it, to him it is sin. To him it is sin. Lay aside that sin that ensnares you, that's messing you up from your own fulfillment of your plan. Now, listen, if you conquer the enemy within, the enemy on the outside can do you no harm. Your enemy is your inner me. that is working against God's plan for your own life, and he's saying, lay that thing aside. It might be a mindset that just says just a little bit, just a little bit. That's why he was talking about a little leaven leavens the whole lump. That's all that it takes, is a little.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation